apologies to those who are online, because I understand we're having a few tech issues and the camera is not talking to the laptop, so we can't see the screen and the person at the same time. I think that's what's happening, so apologies for that. We'll try and sort that out for coming weeks, probably not tonight, to be honest with you. But here we are. I think I have a reading next. I do. Haven't asked anyone to read as usual, so may I ask? Yes, thank you. Karen will read for us.
A reading from the Gospel of Matthew 17. 6 days later, Jesus took him and Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here if you wish. I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead."
Thank you, Karen. So today we climb a mountain with Jesus. And the Gospel tells us that Jesus takes Peter, James and John up a really high mountain, and there suddenly his appearance changes. His face shines. His clothes become dazzling white. Moses and Elijah appear beside him. The disciples are overwhelmed, confused, afraid and amazed all at once. And then comes the voice from the cloud. "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." The church has long called this moment the Transfiguration, a revelation, a change in outward appearance that discloses inward truth. But notice something. Jesus does not become someone new on the mountain. He becomes more fully seen. The glory was already there. The disciples just couldn't perceive it. Many transgender Christians describe something similar, not becoming a different person, but becoming visible, being seen. Now, I came across this YouTube video as I was thinking about this service. It's by Bible Geek, and I highly recommend it if you want a short introduction to queer theology around the Transfiguration. It quotes sociologist Katie E. Ballantyne's research, which shows that for many reasons, the transfiguration or metamorphosis of Jesus shows us that Jesus is beyond gender. For many trans people, transition is not a rejection of the self, but a movement towards integrity, coherence, and livability. It is the difference between surviving and living truthfully, between being named incorrectly and finally being called beloved. The mountain then is not a place where identity changes, it's a place where truth breaks through fear. Peter responds the way many of us do when we're faced with holy disruption. He tries to contain it. "Lord, it's good for us to be here. Let me build 3 dwellings." Oh, Peter, come on. In other words, let's organise this. Let's label it. Let's make it manageable. Let's freeze the moment so we don't have to keep changing. But God interrupts him because divine revelation cannot be contained. The Transfiguration is terrifying because it refuses our categories. Jesus is still the carpenter from Nazareth and also radiant with divine glory. and divine together, familiar and beyond comprehension. The disciples fall to the ground because their assumptions collapse. I wonder if any of our trans folk here today know that experience well. In a world that often insists that bodies must explain souls, that appearance must dictate identity, that binaries must remain stable so everyone else can feel secure. But when someone lives openly as their true gender, it exposes how fragile those categories always were. And some people react like the disciples, in confusion, fear, sometimes silence. Yet, what does Jesus do? He touches them. Get up and do not be afraid. The first pastoral response of Christ to overwhelmed witnesses is not correction, it's reassurance. The voice from the cloud does not say, explain him, categorize him, control him. It says, listen to him. Listening is holy work. Listening means trusting testimony over assumption. Listening means believing people when they tell us who they are. Listening means allowing revelation to come from those the world struggles to understand. For many transgender people, the most sacred moment is not surgery, paperwork, or public declaration, wonderful as all of those are. It's the first time someone uses their name and pronouns without hesitation. That moment that someone listens instead of debates. On the mountain, the disciples learn that encountering God requires surrendering certainty. And then just as suddenly as it began, the vision ends. No shining robes anymore, no prophets in the clouds, just Jesus again. But everything has changed. They walk back down the mountain into ordinary life, dusty roads, arguments, suffering of the cross, empire, injustice. The glory does not remove them from the world, it equips them to live within it. And I think this is crucial for us as the Gathering, an LGBT church. Affirmation is not escapism. The mountain exists. We exist here in this place, so we can return to the valley with courage. Because once you've seen someone transfigured, truly seen, you cannot pretend ignorance again. And the interesting thing is God's revelation consistently arrives through bodies that people misunderstand. A pregnant teenager, a crucified criminal, a resurrected man mistaken for a gardener. And today, through lives that challenge narrow definitions of gender and humanity, the Transfiguration tells us holiness often appears where categories fall. So, when a person lives authentically after years of concealment, when a name spoken at a baptism finally matches the soul, when community replaces shame, we are standing on holy ground. The mountain is not far away. It is wherever truth shines through fear. May we be a church that does not build tents to contain people, but hands to lift them. May we hear the voice from the cloud, not demanding explanations, but inviting attention. This is my beloved. Listen. And may we walk back into the world, shining a little ourselves, not because we have changed into someone else, but because we have dared together to be seen for who we truly are. So, we have some questions. The first one here, the disciples even, struggled to understand what they saw on the mountain? When have you experienced someone finally seeing you? Or when have you finally felt visible in your identity? How did that change your relationship with God, yourself, or community when you were seen? And then question number 2, God's command in the story is simple. Listen to him. What does holy listening look like in practice for an LGBTQI affirming church like us? Where do we still struggle to listen, especially within our own diverse community? What about across gender identities, sexualities, race, disability, or faith backgrounds? And then the third question, the disciples had to come back down the mountain into ordinary life. After moments of affirmation, pride, or spiritual clarity, what challenges do you face returning to everyday spaces? Family, school, work, society. How can the church help carry that mountaintop truth into daily living? So, there we go. There are our discussion questions for today. I want to thank everybody on Facebook for being with us and hope that you can have a good think about those questions yourself. And may you have a blessed week. In fact, let me just give you a foretaste of the blessing that I'm going to use at the end here in the room by saying this. May God send you back down the mountain of our worship, for we have been changed. We can't be silent anymore. We have seen the light of the world. We must go and share the radiance of love. May God bless you as you go.